Hey everybody, welcome to the new plant webinar for 2025. So I'll be your host today talking about trees and shrubs. And for those that don't know me, I'm Ben Sellew. I'm our sales rep for Mass and grew up in the business. I've done a lot of jobs here and I'm excited to be the host today. I'm filling in for Tim Kane, who's been kind of our new plant webinar guru for the last however many years. He's a legend, so I'll try my best to keep everybody intrigued today. And I also have alongside me one of my sidekicks, Matt Phillips. He's coming in to say hi.
Hey, everybody.
He's incredibly knowledgeable. We have a nickname for him here. We call him Retail Matt because he used to run a really big garden center in Western Mass, and he kind of brings our wholesale sales team some unique kind of retail selling points on certain plants. So we have a cool new format this year. Instead of giving you all the new plants in one long webinar, we're going to do 3-hour-long webinars every Thursday at 10 a.m. starting today. So next week we have my friend and coworkers, Chris Valley and Steph Butterick, our reps for Connecticut and New York, who Chris was one of our rose experts, and we like to call Steph the native perennial guru. They're going to be talking about those with you. And then finally, in 2 weeks, Ray DeFeo, our sales manager and Northern New England rep, and our nursery manager, Evan Brand, will be talking about fruits. So lots of exciting content in the next couple weeks and looking forward to it. So, just a quick comment on new plants. In my experience selling to garden centers and re-wholesalers in Massachusetts over the last 7 years is that, it means a lot of different things to different people, but you get to be the judge. Some people embrace the new, use it as a selling point, get their staff and customers excited. Some people are like, you know what, it's got to prove itself to me. And, it's an exciting part of our industry that we have the choice to go through and judge these plants and see what could work for our business. And at PCF, when it comes to new plants at Prides, we've really embraced them. And, sure, we've grown some duds along that journey, but we see that the best plant wins. And then when there's these incredible new genetics and breedings and new characteristics in plants, eventually they're going to catch on. So let's get going. So this is a nice little overview of our main farm in Lebanon. And if you haven't had a chance to visit us in the last couple of years, please come down and visit for summer touring season or whatever works for you guys. We love having people come down to the nursery. So first new plant, Azalea Elsie Lee. So our first new plant was introduced in 1970. So I hope no one's signing off this webinar already because of that. But why we added Elsie Lee is it's a really different color than what we currently have in our evergreen azalea mix. We have blouse pink and rosebud as a brighter pink, but these are going to be a lighter lavender, almost a lighter color than PJM. So nice frilled kind of double petal look to the flower. But why we're adding this plant is for we don't currently have this flower color in evergreen azaleas. So Elsie Lee. Next up, and many of you might not know this plant, but I feel this plant and a lot of people at Pride feels like it deserves a lot of attention and we're currently evaluating this plant for our American Beauties program. But Baccharis is a wetland plant. It's incredibly salt tolerant. It attracts tons of pollinators. It's used for erosion control. I mean, it's very versatile. And it's important to know it can also live in upland soils. So this plant survives everywhere. And it can go completely underwater during tidal shifts. It can survive in a ditch on the highway. It attracts the monarch butterfly. The silvery achenes on the female plant is a good source of nectar for the monarch. And it just is hitting all those native hot buttons for, its ecological benefits, its pollinator benefits. So another little fun fact about the plant is that native to North America, it's the largest plant in the Asteraceae family, which is the largest plant family out there. So Really, really unique, cool plant. It has a silvery blue foliage to it. And I think you'll start seeing this on a lot of landscape job lists moving forward. Up and coming native plant. Okay, the Better Boxwood series. So we're really excited about this. This is a new blight tolerant boxwood program, and it's the primary solution in Europe. So in Europe, they've been dealing with blight since the early 90s, and it completely wiped out the business. It decimated the boxwood market. People stopped planting it. So 20 years of research and development from a Belgian breeder named Didier Hermans, working alongside the Flemish Institute of Agriculture and Fisheries. They developed these blight-resistant varieties that are being sold all across Europe. They've got 4 unique varieties that cover a lot of kind of the boxwood landscape needs. They're all small leaf type, Seneca types, so those respond well to a prune. They're the most resistant to blight. And our current program for these is all 2-gallon for next year. So we'll have a good way to launch the new program in a 2-gallon good retail price point. But the 4 varieties we have Babylon Beauty, which is kind of like a medium spread hedger, like a little bit smaller version of a winter gem. We have Heritage, which is a compact upright. So that we don't have a lot of varieties that fit that niche in our mix. So excited about that compact upright Heritage. Renaissance is like a low hedge border, almost think a Little Missy, but to plant as a border planting. And then we have Skylight, which is another one we're very excited about, an upright screener and get up to 6 to 8 feet tall and is in that pyramidal shape. So we're always looking for plants that we don't have a lot of offerings in, and upright boxwoods is one of them. So excited to add these 2 varieties to that. And this brand has been promoted at Manson Cultivate for years. So there's lots of marketing that's going into it. And it has a nice brand presentation with signs in the pot. And we saw with the success of New Gen, as a branded boxwood program, that ultimately got us really excited about this, that there's a market for that branded boxwood, and we're adding to it with Better Boxwood for next year.
And one quick question on the boxwood from Dan Miller. He has asked, how is PCF dealing with the boxwood moth?
So we're aggressively scouting for it, and making sure that it's being regulated in the right way, Dan. I mean, they went to the compliance agreement with the box tree moth as opposed to a quarantine model, the USDA. So what that means is that if you get a clean bill of health at the nursery, we're okay. But like I know in Massachusetts, where Dan is, it's a statewide quarantine. The plant can't leave the state. So that's a new pest that's we're really keeping our eye on. It's a little scary, but the good news is that from our plant health experts here, from talking to growers that have had the moth at their nurseries, that there's ways to manage it. So these varieties, they're not claiming to be resistant to that moth, Dan, just to clarify. All right.
One more quick question from Megan Provencher. She said, I've never seen the plant offer here in Illinois. So she was wondering, it might be something we'd have to try. She was after having a week of negative 20-degree temps, guessing it might not be 100% hardy here.
Hardy to zone 5. The reason why you probably haven't seen it in Illinois, Megan, is that this is brand new. We haven't sold a single one of these. So like Allison said, some of these new plants are semi-new. This is brand new. We will sell our first Better Boxwood this spring. So I think you'll see them on more nursery availabilities this year and in the coming years. All right. So speaking of branded boxwood, we have a new introduction in New Gen, and it's our first addition to the New Gen family since the inception of the program in 2019. And, for those of you that aren't as familiar with New Gen, it comes from the Saunders Brothers Boxwood Genetics group, and they have been working on this with Virginia Tech for 10 years since blight started to become an issue. And honestly, this brand brought a lot of life and confidence back into Boxwood after years of uncertainty, really. And so currently we've always been selling since like 2019, 2020, Freedom and Independence varieties. So this is a great new addition to that. Liberty Bell. It was bred by Robert Head in Seneca, South Carolina, as the most tolerant boxwood to blight ever. So they had over 150 different selections or named varieties of boxwood in this trial, and this one showed the strongest resistance to blight. Think of a tide hill that doesn't spread so wild. It's going to stay in its spot, which is nice. So it's got that really low spreading, but not spreading so much characteristics to it. It's a Seneca species, so a similar leaf to like a Franklin's Gem. And, these are specifically bred to be resistant to blight and leaf miner. And they're continuing to look at new improvements in boxwood. So New Gen, great program here at Prides. Next up, we have the Beauty Ladies series of Kaluna. These are great, compact, sun-loving, evergreen plants. I first saw these plants in 2018. I was at IPM Essen, which is the largest horticulture trade show in Europe. And there was a whole huge booth from this breeder in Denmark that was dedicated just to Beauty Ladies Kaluna. So they're a big seller in Europe. And what makes them stand out at the nursery compared to other Kaluna is how long they hold their buds and how colorful their buds are. So what that does is it extends the color window. We're always just shocked we're like, when are those flowers going to open? So the colorful buds add interest, and then the flowers open late summer into fall, and it just adds a nice texture to the garden. And another benefit is as you get the shorter days and the cooler nights, you'll get some foliage interest as well, and a pop of color in the foliage. So these thrive in a gravelly, sandy soil. We've got some really cool colors here: the purple, the white, the pink, the magenta. So when we grow all these in a 1 gallon, lots of color, cheap retail, and a good impulse item. So keep your eyes out for the Beauty Ladies Kaluna. Okay, we have Double Take, Eternal White and Peach in the Double Take series of quince. These were bred by Tom Rainey, who's a very prolific breeder for the Proven Winner Color Choice Shrub program, amongst others. He's from NC State, but honestly, we contribute these plants to bringing life back to a genus that was dying almost. Quince was not a very important plant here 10 years ago, and the Double Take series from PW has brought some life back into it. We've been selling the orange and scarlet for varieties for a little while now, and they're very popular. So it's nice to add these white and peach colors as to kind of complement with a more pastel type color. And, primarily in early April, it's a lot of yellow flowers out there, as we know, forsythia. So this is a way to add more color with the red and the pink and the white and orange. So the buds are very showy. They swell up, and the buds are the color of the flower. And the really big selling point, other than the double flower here, is the size of the quince flower. So it's just more of a color bomb because that flower is bigger than a traditional quince. And, one of the challenges with quince, though, is keeping it from flowering too early. We all know that. I know from talking to other growers who are farther south from us that they take plants, they've taken this plant out of their mix. But we like to call it, we tout it the northern advantage. We talk about it all the time. Sorry for those folks that hear that spiel from me, but we slow these plants down. So we don't want them to flower at Prides. We want them to flower at your guys' place. So we keep them very cool with venting, dark opacity plastic. And we'll start this kind of slow down process and cooling the plants down in February, very soon. And it's a very important initiative for us. It allows us to give you plants that are acclimated so they can go outside early in spring, and plants that are going to flower on time when your customers show up. So we do this with small leaf rhodies, forsythia, erica, and quince. So this is just an important northern advantage point to talk about. We're going to slow these plants down so they flower on time.
And we have just a couple quick questions that came in. One person wanted to know about the new gen varieties, how fast they grow. And I hope my audio sounds better. I think I have to keep my video on, unfortunately. So, so give me some feedback on that too. If this now I sound a little bit better. I was jarbled before, Ben.
Yeah. So of the three varieties, Freedom will be the fastest grower. And then Independence, it would be number 2. This Liberty Bell, this new introduction, is going to be the slowest grower. This is all Boxwood is slow in my opinion, but this new Liberty Bell is by far the slowest. Freedom is the fastest, but in terms of do they stand out compared to other Boxwood varieties in terms of the pace of growth? Not really.
And then one other question came in about the Chenamelies, if it was deer or rabbit resistant. I believe it is deer resistant.
Oh my God, incredibly deer resistant. I'm not sure about rabbits. We'll have to look that up. We wanted to, any questions that we can't give you an answer to today, we're gonna track that information down and follow up with you guys somehow. So be on the lookout for that. But incredibly deer resistant quince. Yeah, the deer won't touch these. They're drought tolerant. So tough plants. All right. Next up, we have Chamaecyparis Cedar Rapids, a new evergreen from PW. And what I like about this plant is that it gets big. So a lot of the new introductions in the conifer world from these brands are more on the compact or almost even dwarf side. So this is going to get 30 feet, and what they touted when they were introducing it, they say it's fast growing. It's fast growing like a green giant. So a large screening evergreen that's going to get up to 30 feet tall, that grows fast, to add a different texture with the Chamaecyparis instead of an arborvitae. I feel like that's a good selling point. So Chamaecyparis Cedar Rapids. Next up, we have Cornus Sergeant Pepper. And I know after I give a little info on this plant, Matt has some thoughts, but this is one of the highly touted additions to Proven Winners this year. It's a variegated dogwood like Ivory Halo, but it has way more color interest. It's going to burst into pinks and burgundy on the fringe seasons of the spring and the fall, and still has that really nice green and white variegated leaf in the summertime, winter interest with the red stems. So 4 seasons of interest, incredibly unique color to it. And, Ivory Halo is the only variegated dogwood we grow. So there's room in this kind of category of plants. When I look at it in its peak variegation, I almost think of like a tricolor beach look, but the real selling point here is the unique foliage. And with the popularity of Ivory Halo, it feels like this plant's got some legs behind it for us at Pride. So we're excited about this new plant. Matt, do you want to?
Yeah, well, the other cool thing about that plant, it's also a zone 3. So it's super cold tolerant. You can put it in containers. You can use it near the edge of the road. It has a lot of unique characteristics that make it able to be used everywhere. This plant has won a bunch of awards, and the foliage stays super clean in the summertime during the heat. And then once the cold nights come again, you get the pink margins. If you trim it often, and you'll get that really nice red trim or red twigs throughout the wintertime. It's a fantastic new plant.
Thanks, Matt. So Cornus Sergeant Pepper.
So we have a couple questions that came in about this one. They wanted to know about if it's mildew resistant. I don't know.
They're not claiming that they're obviously selecting for traits that show more resistance to mildew or leaf spot, and but they're not claiming that it's resistant to that. We all know that ivory halo is a big problem there, and this will probably have some flare-ups, but to be determined as to whether it's more resistant to that.
And have you heard any reports? I mean, this is a pretty new plant, but Emily Whalen asked if there's been any reports of reverting back to just the plain green color.
Too early to tell. Like you said, usually that, it takes a couple of years to tell that in a production environment. So hopefully not, but too early to tell at this point.
And do you know if it has a berry on it or not? Natalie asked if it has white berries. You have to research that one for her.
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't believe so, though.
I'll do some research and I'll respond in the chat for you, Natalie. Thanks, Ben.
No problem. Yeah, keep the questions coming, guys. Please. The more the merrier. It's nice to get your interaction and feedback on this presentation. We appreciate it. So. Next up, we have the sister series of Cytisus. We have Sister Redhead and Sister Disco. Sorry for my Massachusetts customers on, this is a banned plant there because it's taken over some dunes. But very drought tolerant, deer resistant plant, can survive in the sand pretty much. So fun pops of colors here on the redhead. You have like a little yellow variegation in the flower on the center, and on the disco, you have red in the center of the yellow flower. And one thing to note, these will be in the new Deer Proof Proven Winner program, which we're really expanding at the nursery. It's in its own special container that says Deer Proof. It still has the Proven Winner branding, but it has a little Deer Proof logo. And Proven Winners is very focused on that program because they've had some tremendous consumer interest. So these will have their own Deer Proof PW container, amongst other plants. So just to be on the lookout for that. And the sister series of Cytisus, really vibrant colors, compact, nice plants. So next up, Yuki Kabuki. I mean, try to say that without laughing. I mean, does anybody know who came up with that name? Maybe someone who was at the Horse You Rode In On Saloon too late in Baltimore at Mance. But anyways, we love joking about kind of funny plant names at Prides, and this one has kind of taken the cake this year. But part like the Yuki series of Deutzia PW, we have Snowflake, we have Cherry Blossom. This is like an improved Cherry Blossom. It's an awesome plant, the Cherry Blossom. So this is going to be a little bit bigger and more floriferous. That's what they're toting it as. But that pink and white flower just pops, and you get the fall foliage change. But really what I think, personally, since we're all in the business here, what to me is the most important thing about Deutzia, it flowers in mid-May. So, I mean, anything in flower in mid-May is going to sell well in our book. It's the perfect timing. It's when we're all the busiest. So, versatile plant. It sells for both landscape and retail, low maintenance, and flowers in mid-May. That's what you got to remember. If you're looking for more impulse items at the time when we're all the busiest, don't forget about Deutzia.
Another thing that's good about this one is that it's flowers on new and old wood. So if you did have that -20 in the last 3 days, this will still give you flowers this springtime. Or if the homeowner tends to trim at the wrong time, run it over with a lawnmower, you're still going to get flowers even if the stems aren't vernalized.
Good point, man. Really. Yuki Kabuki. All right, moving on. Okay, Hibiscus Paraplu Adorned. So Paraplu is a new series, kind of new. We've had them for a couple years. Paraplu Violet and Pink Ink are two cultivars we've been growing, but they were introduced as an improvement on the Satin series of single flowering Rosa Sharon. And what makes them stand out is the size of the flower. The flower is like double the size of an old school Diana or a blue satin even. So really makes it gives it more color appeal. And it's important to know these are sterile flowers so for those of you who've dealt with thousands of volunteer seedlings popping up from the old fertile varieties, no need to worry anymore with these Paraplus. But so Adorned, this new plant with a nice violet, almost like a lavendery color flower, but it's being toted for its variegated foliage. So it has a nice dark green and lime green variegated leaf to it, and a nice habit, not so rangy. Paraplu Adorned, a new variegated Rosa Sharon. What I like about that is like we knock Rosa Sharon for it flushes too late. So the month of April, it still looks like it's almost dead. And then it flowers too late. It flowers in August. So to give it interest in between then, that's what excites me the most about Paraplu Adorned with the variegated leaf. Next up, we have Red Pillar. So we love the pillar plants at Pride's. They are strong growers. I mean, if you want to plant, whether it's a standalone or a group of these, they're going to fill in quick in the landscape. And this red one is a unique color. It's that the center of that flower is a true dark red, which is unique for Rosa Sharon. It's not like a dark pink, it's a red. And they have a really gorgeous, upright, more narrow habit. Like the heat, don't mind a little drought, but really strong growers. And one other important thing to note on the pillars that I feel like it's always like a, oh yeah moment every year, but they bloom later than other Rosa Sharon. So like the chiffons and other varieties of hibiscus, these bloom about almost a month later. So extending the color window on this genus. And Red Pillar, really nice habit, quick grower, nice flower color, good new plant. Next up, Star Blast Chiffon. Man, we're on a Rosa Sharon bender over here, but this is not a brand new plant, but it's definitely worth mentioning today as a plant that was introduced in the last couple of years. It just stands out whenever we're driving around the nursery looking for plants in the summertime, and this plant just makes you stop your truck. Super unique flower, big size to it. You get the two-tone of the pink and the white, but you also get this kind of ruffled star-shaped double flower look in the center, which is truly unique. And it blooms a little. It's known for blooming a little longer. This starts blooming like in mid-July as opposed to like mid-August for the pillars. And two-tone flower, bright magenta. It just stands out. It's going to be striking in the landscape, and really cool new plant. Keep your eye out on Star Blast Chiffon. Next up, Flowerful. You guys, if you pay attention to our website or marketing emails, we blasted you guys with this one this year because we got to kind of introduce it a little earlier than Bailey Nurseries had planned for. Bailey's is the breeder, and they're an unbelievable partner of Pride's. Bailey's is now in Minnesota, and they are the owners of the Endless Summer First Edition and Easy Elegance brands. But this is them, kind of like, we were talking about Sgt. Pepper being one of the big touted PW introductions. This is the big Bailey Nurseries First Editions introduction, Flowerful, and it deserves your attention. I mean, flowers from head to toe. It's truly an improved Annabelle. It has more resistance to anthracnose. It has a darker foliage to it. But at the nursery, what we loved about it was how well it responded to a prune. So it flushes beautifully out of a prune. And as we know, these plants, we're always working on cycle pruning and constantly bringing plants to your garden centers in the right stage. And to be able to cycle prune an arborescens or a smooth hydrangea in a manner like a paniculata almost, it's unique. So we can keep this plant coming into the right flowering window. It's going to have 2 to 3 times more blooms per season than other smooth hydrangeas. Super strong stems. And when you see a mature plant of this, which I saw touring the trial gardens in Minnesota, it flowers all the way up the stem from head to toe, as opposed to when I think Annabelle, I think of all the flowers sitting up top. So it has a different look. It's not going to flop, and just great. Matures at just 3 to 4 feet, so it's going to be a nice little habit, and really, really cool new plant to pay attention to. Flowerful.
We gave those out at the open house too, so that will be the true test when everybody lets us
Yeah.
know how they do this spring.
That's right, Matt. If you got one of those at the open house, say something in the chat about how great it is.
We had a quick question come in about that one. Do you know how it does with leaf roller?
I do not know. No, let's add that to our follow-up.
Follow-up questions. Yep. Sounds good.
Perfect. Next up, Hydrangea involucrata. Very unique plant. Look at this, right? For you collectors and specimen plant people out there, this is just doesn't look like any hydrangea I've seen. The flowers like protected by these bracts, and it almost gives the bud it looks like a peony bud almost. But the flowers open up into a really nice kind of like a lace cap looking flower, and it's covered in pollinators. Really unique plant that if you're looking for something truly different that you can't find at a lot of places, this is the plant for you, Hydrangea involucrata. Eclipse. So this fits the bill of the semi-new plants, but deserve a little refresh on. But Eclipse just really impressed us. We went into last year thinking, oh, this is a cool new plant, but it exceeded our expectations by not only its performance, but how well it sold. So it's got this dark red flower, but what really makes this plant stand out, the real selling point, is the dark foliage. And it stands out amongst other dark leaf varieties that we grow here. I mean, you'll see in the heat of the summer, dark leaf varieties are known to kind of fade to a darker green or a lighter brown. And Eclipse holds its dark leaf better than any variety we grow here. So they stay dark. Sold incredibly well. Last year we sold out, so we ramped up production. We've got some good availability going into this year, so we'll have you covered if you need this. And they continue to market it pretty heavily, so they're doing a good job keeping this in the forefront of the consumer. And cool flower too. I don't want to talk all about the foliage. The flower is unique and nice looking as well. So
Ben, on this one, is the Plants from Pride's going to have the red color, or will it have the purple color? Do you know?
They're going to be more red. The flower color, are they talking about? Or the flower color is going to be more red from Pride's. Yeah.
Okay. And just a comment from Amy Castillo. She said that they sold theirs faster than any other variety at their last year. So that's great news. And,
yeah, good to hear, Amy. It impressed us with how well it sold. And you still saw signs and a lot of plants down at Mance, so it's still being marketed well.
And then Scott says, are you able to keep this plant upright in the production setting? Been hearing from other East Coast growers that they can't keep it from flopping in a pot. It's just a watering, humidity, sun issue on their end maybe, but
well, I mean, one thing's that an incredibly important thing we do in our MAC program is a PGRs, which keeps the plant from growing too quickly in a production setting, which will lend to it not flopping as well. We haven't seen that issue, Scott. So I think, a combination of light exposure, PGRs pruning. So Eclipse. Let's keep it going here. Here we have a new Oakleaf autumn reprise, excuse me. But Oakleafs are having a moment here at Prides. We can't grow enough of them. The dwarf varieties, the big varieties, and everything in between. They're hitting a lot of kind of hot buttons. They have the native aspect to them. They've got really nice fall foliage. They have the exfoliating bark in the winter. And the really nice flowers. It can do well in sun. It can do well in shade. So this plant, it's touted for having some nice reblooming capabilities to it. So, but oak leaves in general just are kind of hitting all those buttons. Native, retail, landscape, color, 4 seasons of interest. So just wanted to bring some more life to oak leaves, and this new variety autumn reprise is supposed to be a good rebloomer. So
just a quick question. Jane asked, what's a PGR?
A plant growth regulator. So it's a type of hormone we can apply to plants to slow down flowering or slow down growth so that they don't flop or flower too quick. Next up, we have Wee Bit Innocent. Me personally, very excited about this plant. The Wee Bit series is a great new series. They were introduced as the kind of replacement lineup of hydrangeas for the City Line series. So the PW discontinued City Line years ago, and they came out with Wee Bit as a better reblooming compact hydrangea mac. And sure enough, that's what it's doing. They're blooming on new wood, and we have some great varieties. We grow the Giddy and the Grumpy right now. So Giddy is a bright pink orangey color, and Grumpy is a really unique maroony purplish color. And now we're adding Innocent, which is a white flowering mac that fades to pink, and I'm excited about that. We don't grow we grow Wedding Gown and Blushing Bride. So there's room for more white macs in our mix. And this is it's checking all the boxes. To pay attention to PW hydrangeas, going to all these national shows and listening to breeders and seeing the data, they're really focusing on what I think is important, which is blooming on new wood. And so that if you have dieback in old wood from a really tough winter, you still have a chance to produce flowers in that next growing season. And I think they've come the farthest. I might be a one-trick pony. All my customers know I love Let's Dance Skyview. That's in the Let's Dance series. I planted that at my house a couple years ago when we had one of those that February polar vortex, and everything, all the wood died. And we were getting leaves flushing from the crown, and that plant bloomed its head off that year. So I even brought a sign just to give Skyview a little limelight. Everyone was asking me if there was going to be a slide in it, but not just new, better. There are macs out there that are going to bloom on new wood. And I think that's just a breakthrough in breeding, and Wee Bits and Let's Dance are some of the best ones we see. And Wee Bit Innocent, good flower color, good habit, good series, great exciting new plant. Next up, Ilex glabra Forever Emerald. This is one of my dad's favorite new plants we're growing here, but we're putting it into our AB program, and it really is a unique plant. It's a native selection, so this was found naturally occurring, just like every named plant in AB. They're all natural occurring selections, right? There's no hybridization like with the new PW plant, but these are native. This was a native selection found in Nova Scotia by Michael Durr, the famous Michael Durr. So it's truly the most compact Ilex glabra on the market. Half the size of Gembox, full habit to the ground, and a smaller leaf to it. So it really could be used as an alternative to Boxwood or Jap Holly, but really, really cool new plant. It's female, but it rarely produces berries. So I remember we had a plant ID contest at an event in the summer, and the winner of the ID contest got to pick any plant we had on that shipping pad to take as a free plant home. And she picked this one. So Forever Emerald, really cool new dwarf inkberry. And as we all know, Ilex glabra, we're chasing that plant at Pride's in terms of we're not growing enough of that plant under incredible demand here.
We had a quick question come in about Skyview, I think. They wanted to know your thoughts on it, how it bloomed, if it bloomed like Endless Summer.
It blooms better than Endless Summer. Flowers much better. Sorry, Endless Summer is great, but this is a breakthrough in new breeding. So one of the Endless Summer plants that you can kind of tote as having this blooming on new wood capacity would be Pop Star, the newer lace cap. That was one that they really touted as. But I know Endless Summer is working on great new plants to come. So Skyview compared to Endless Summer Original is going to produce more flowers. Next up, we have another Ilex glabra squeeze box. Kind of weird name, but part of that box series of PW. And what we like about this is its habit. It's upright, pyramidal. So it can get 4 to 6 feet tall, and it keeps a kind of columnar pyramidal shape to it. And another important thing to note is that this is a male variety. So this will pollinate the entire box series, Gem Box and Strong Box. So this is the male that will pollinate those plants. Squeeze box. Next up, Aquavita. This plant is cool because it just is like one of those plants that when you're driving, you stop and you look at it and you're like, what's that? And, you know, I was doing that with plants that weren't even saleable at the nursery this year, right? While we had it in production growing, but the foliage just stood out. I mean, it is a true baby blue. And it's got a nice upright, narrow habit, but not super narrow like Blue Arrow. It has like a more native-y kind of look to it, like a Virginiana. And Virginiana is like another one of these buzz native plants. I mean, we years ago decided, oh man, that's rangy and tough in production, and no one wants Juniper Virginiana. So we started growing all these cultivars, and now we're going back to growing a ton of the straight species. So it's funny how that works out. But this is a really cool mid-sized blue foliage Virginiana called Aquavita. And something to keep your eye out on. Next up, we have Paisley Pup. So I know we went out and we tried to get you guys to book this plant for the spring because it was a big new introduction, but our plants are not quite ready to go yet. They're not saleable. So if you didn't get that on your confirmation, no worries. Nobody did. But we're very excited about this plant. It's, you know, a broadleaf evergreen, which, you know, we always get excited about, especially ericaceous ones. But shades of pink, green, and white make this truly unique compared to like rainbow. You get the pink and the green, which really are just nice looking colors on the plant. It stands out in like the shade. You think of you plant Leucothoi in the shade, obviously, and that pop of that variegated leaf is going to really stand out. And they're definitely having their moment, Leucothoi. It's deer resistant, shade loving, can take wet feet. It's a versatile problem solving plant. So really excited about Paisley Pup. Hopefully we'll get a nice big flush on those plants and have some saleable for summer, fall, but Matt, you want to add anything on Paisley Pop?
When we were down at Mance, this plant had the biggest reaction at our booth. Everybody really, it just stands out and you don't know what it is. You have to get closer to really like figure out what it is. So it'll be an interesting plant to add to a small space. It's just definitely a cool introduction from PW.
Absolutely. Next up, Lonicera Coral Star. This was bred by Barry Fretwell, who's a renowned clematis and vine breeder from the UK. Excuse me. And it was introduced by Concept Plants, that's like an intermediary, or he's almost like a broker between growers and breeders, and we work closely with them. Sorry about that. I just nudged something, but yeah, so introduced by Concept Plants, who brings a lot of plants from Europe to the North American market. But basically, Lonicera, we've have Sensation and PW, a yellow flowering. We grow Major Wheeler, which is the red flowering, which we don't grow enough of, and we're trying to ramp up. But we wanted to add a apricot orange color to that mix, and that's what made us add Coral Star, Fragrant, Climber, really cool plant. So adding to the color mix and climbing Lonicera. And I say climbing Lonicera, you're probably like, isn't all Lonicera climbing? But we have a new one that not so much.
Before you talk about this one, we had a couple questions come in on the Paisley Pup. So they wanted to know, Danielle wanted to know how it will do in colder temperatures. And there's also a question on the color of the foliage. Is it all season or is that the winter color? Does it look like that through the summer?
The foliage is all season. I mean, it's going to vary a little bit in the different seasons, but you get that appeal all season long. And then the winter hardiness on it is pretty tough. Zone 5. So I don't know how far north she is, but Zone 5 would be good for Massachusetts and Connecticut and probably into the coast of northern New England.
Oh, it says she's in Syracuse.
Yeah, well, we might have to send you up a plant a trial. Okay, so Lonicera Kinsley's Ghost, really, really another one of these specimen kind of unique, one-of-a-kind plants. It almost looks like a eucalyptus to me. But the flowers, they like kind of pop out like rounded bracts, and they're a good source of pollen. And once those flowers are pollinated, they'll produce red berries in the fall. But it's really known for its like silvery blue foliage and its kind of mounded habit almost. This is a really tough plant, Zone 4 hardy. And it can be trained as a vine, but can be grown as a shrub. So versatile, tough, and unique plant.
It is native, but it's non-invasive like some of the other Lonicera can be. It will only grow about 6 to 12 feet, so it's not going to take over or rip your siding off. It's an old-fashioned variety a lot of people are familiar with, but you've only been able to get it the past few years out of like a mail order catalog for a little 2-inch pot. So something back in our production, and it'll be a great addition. Very unique. It's a plant that if a gardener has everything else, they just don't have this plant. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, unique is the way to. It's like the one word I keep landing on. You can't yell at us for having another Me Too hydrangea here. This is like nothing like it. So, Lonicera Kinsley's Ghost. Next up, we have Philadelphus Pearls of Perfume. Compact grower, incredibly fragrant, and one of the first Philadelphus introductions, they're saying blooms on old and new wood. Well, to be determined for us here at Pride's, but as fragrant as any mock orange we grow, and we've over the last couple of years have grown some varieties that haven't had that crazy fragrance, like for instance the Illuminati towers or some of those Illuminati varieties, which PW has introduced Illuminati spice, which does have nice fragrance, which we'll be growing. But at the end of the day, that's what's going to sell this plant, the sweet smell to it. So this one, incredibly fragrant, double flowery, has some new wood blooming potential. So New Philadelphus, pearls of perfume. Next up, Physocarpus calico kitty. Super tough, cold tolerant plant. Lots of seasons of interest. The foliage opens up a bright coppery brown on this and then fades to darker as the season progresses, like you see. And what's cool is the buds are pink. So the buds on this plant are pink and the flowers open up white. So you get that contrasting with the dark foliage. So kind of a little bit of a different Physocarpus for us. Part of the Bloom and Easy program, the plant brand for young homeowners that, we love to promote at Prides, and Calico Kitty, a nice new Ninebark. Next up, we have the Happy Face Orange. So the Happy Face lineup has impressed us at Prides, if you're not familiar with it. And, it's tough to impress nursery people with potentilla, right? But nice habit, large flowers. And, we thank our good friend Tim Wood at Spring Meadow, the breeder of these plants. He brought us potentilla that performs in the American landscape with the color options we want. So this is an elusive color in potentilla. We've killed a lot of orange potentilla in our careers here at Prides, and we finally have a nice orange that has good garden performance. We also grow hearts in white and yellow, but these they have a nice presentation and a nice habit. Good new potentilla series.
Ben, what have you maybe researched on the powdery mildew on those? Oh, no, sorry, powdery mildew on the calico, the Physocarpus calico.
I have not looked into that. We all know powdery mildew is a pain in the butt on Ninebarks. They're not touting it to be more resistant in their literature on the plant. So that tells me that it's probably just as susceptible. Next up, bloom bucks. We had some of these for sale last year and they sold out. It was a small number, but it got us a little bit more excited about this. Interesting, really unique plants. They're super compact. They're almost dwarf with a lot of flower power. So good for small spaces, but I like to think of it for plants that we know. It's like a better looking version of Purple Gem with more bigger buds that stand out. And, this is already a very popular group of plants in Europe selling as a boxwood replacement. So we have magenta and blush and really unique, cool plants. So bloom bucks. And next up, we have the Holden series of rhododendrons. So rhodies, they're a signature genus at Prides. And I don't think from the top down, our owner to the nursery manager to salespeople have been more excited about a new rhododendron program than they are with the Holdens. So these were bred at the David Lease Research Station, which is at the Holden Arboretum in Madison, Ohio. And it's a rhododendron focused curated group of plants that's been in that arboretum since 1940. So I visited that place and got to walk around with the breeders on how they were selecting these new introductions. So these plants were trialed under the most intense Phytophthora-friendly conditions, grown in puddles, grown in the shade, throw water all over it in order to find hybrids that showed more resistance to Phytophthora. And that was the birth of these Holden series of rhododendrons. And they're compact. So they're not going to take over as a big blob like some old school varieties, but truly the most Phytophthora resistant rhododendrons ever introduced. Lots of nice colors. And they just got put into our worry-free program. Worry-free is a branded program from the Synergy Group, which is a group of growers, including ourselves, Over to Vest, Willoway, Saunders, and Sheridan. And basically, Mark Sellew, Tom Demeline, Ed Over to Vest, and these leaders have been pitched new plants from breeders all over the world and from national brands their whole careers. And they thought, let's put our heads together, find great plants that we think get passed over, and put them in a brand that are exclusive to garden centers, independent garden centers. So that's worry-free. We have our sterile barberry in there. We're putting more plants into there and looking at more plants constantly for that program. So keep your eyes out for worry-free. And Holden's rhododendrons, Phytophthora resistant varieties.
These, we had one question about when do they bloom?
Oh, they would bloom in like early to mid-May.
Danielle says she has to leave. I just want to remind everybody, this is being recorded. I know we're kind of reached that 11 o'clock time. We're going to keep going because we have a lot of great plants to share with you. So if you have to step off, we totally understand, but you're going to be able to find the recording at our YouTube channel early next week. So have a great rest of your week if you have to step off, but we're gonna keep going.
I'll try to go a little quicker. Sorry if I'm being too wordy, everybody. Ribes Sunny Bouquet, a new selection that we're putting into the American Beauties program. Native pollinator, hummingbird magnet, kind of different yellow flowers for a odoratum type of ribes. They're like tubular yellow flowers that are very fragrant, which is nice too. But, you know, don't write off all ribes is kind of the message here, because it has had some bad publicity as a host for rust and other issues. So they also have a ton of great native benefits in certain areas. So Ribes Sunny Bouquet, a new selection going into AB. Bloomerang, a pure pink, finally. You know, how many pink bloomerangs have we tried to grow that didn't rebloom or even bloom before we finally got it figured out? Honestly, the bloomerang dark purple has been a really awesome plant, and we've been pushing Spring Meadow to get that type of performance with different flower colors. And this is the first lighter pink flower that actually reblooms well. And it's a great addition to the Bloomerang series. I know it's got to prove itself to you guys out there that have tried these, but I think it's worth giving it a shot. Syringa a little later, really, really tough zone 2 hardy plant. I'd like to think of it as almost a little bit of an improved Miss Kim. Strong bloomer, dark foliage. It held its flowers really well at the nursery. So, you know, we have Baby Kim, we have Miss Kim, we have Palabin, we have this type of lilac. There's more and more hitting the market now, the new Bloomerang. So don't forget about, if you're looking for a first edition option, Syringa Little Lady. Viburnum Rhododendron Cree. So this was a national arboretum intro. And it is the most compact Rhododendron available on the market. You guys know that plant gets wild and big, and this is going to be the half the size of a straight species or an Allegheny. So this is going to be the most compact Rhododendron available on the market. Next up, we have Sonic Bloom Wine. What's cool about this plant is it's kind of combining 2 series of Weigela from PW. You have the wine series like Spilled Wine and Wine and Roses that really are touting their dark leaf. And then you have the Sonic Bloom series that's really going and saying, we produce more flowers, we're strong blooming. So they're taking that and combining that with a dark leaf Weigela that's going to bloom better than some of the other ones in the wine series. So Sonic Bloom Wine. And now we're getting into some new trees, just a few. So we'll get going with these. We have Metamorphosa, a new Jap maple in the PW program, and I saw that these aren't available currently because every saleable plant got pre-booked. So that's a good sign. But I like to think of it as like a dwarf butterflies, if you're familiar with that variety of Jap maple. This was a finalist in the Chelsea Flower Show Plant of the Year competition, developed in the Netherlands. And what's cool is like it's not just like a green Jap maple, it's like you get multiple leaf colors on it. It's like even in the spring and summertime, it's like lime green, yellow, orangey. So cool multicolored foliage.
And it's frilly, kind of like butterflies is, so it has like a curled leaf to it. So the texture is very different than other Japanese maple.
Yeah, cool texture and leaf, Matt was saying. So next up, Betula Avalanche, new PW birch. One thing they touted on is that it's easier to get this to clump than some other varieties. You have, compared to some other clump birch we grow, we have to train them in a way. We put a styrofoam disc in the middle there so that it trains the separate trees to grow apart from each other as opposed to wrap around each other. So it's supposed to clump a lot easier. And obviously this is important, bronze birch borer resistance. So nice peeling white bark and a nice clump birch from PW here. Next up, Betula utilis, white satin. This is a new species for us, Himalayan birch. And I had a specific customer call me and just tell me how he was excited about this plant on his spring order. And I saw that we did book every saleable plant we have on the ground. So another one to keep your eye out for the future, maybe for the fall, but really kind of like not overly big for a birch. We'll get like 30 feet tall and resistant to the birch borer. And really what's cool about this from our tree experts around the nurseries, they say the bark turns white at a much younger age compared to some of the other birch out there on the market. So Betula white satin, a Himalayan birch, borer resistance, younger to produce white bark, cool new birch.
Hey, Ben, one quick question. I apologize if my mic is still messed up. I got, but the growth rate on the Japanese maple, the Metamorphosa, do you know if is that a slow grower? Is it a fast grower? Or?
A slow grower.
Okay.
I know that for a fact because it's a compact variety, which was just, it's definitely a slow grower. That was I think that was a new plant introduction years ago, and we just haven't been able to graft and build up enough size in our crop to sell it. So that's why we're talking about it again. Ginkgo Skinny Fit, really unique collector's plant here. Super small footprint tree that will have a nice impact with fall foliage, but it maxes out at about 10 to 15 feet tall and doesn't get more than 3 feet wide. So columnar, compact, ginkgo, Skinny Fit. Matt?
This one's really cool. It's not flowered or fruited since it's been introduced in 1996, and it responds much better to being transplanted than traditional ginkgos do. That's always been a problem where they don't love being transplanted and they go into shock a little bit. This one is used to that and can take really poor soils as well.
Very good. Little volunteer tulip trees, we all know are popular for my territory. And what's cool about this one is it grows to just a third of the size of your traditional tulip tree. It's uniform. It's kind of clean looking, a nice habit to it. And obviously it's, the flower on the tulip tree is what gets everyone excited, I think. And this has that. So really nice and compact Rhododendron here, little volunteer. I like the name too. Next up, Emerald Spire. Kind of reminds me of the Habita-like Skinny Fit, columnar, dwarf crabapple here. It's going to get about 15 feet tall, a couple feet wide. And really, they're touting it for producing a ton of fruit and producing a ton of flowers. So neat habit, good flower, makes this makes this a plant to keep your eye on. Next up, Styrax, Starway to Heaven. You know, this is an award-winning, awesome plant. I love this plant personally. It's fragrant, it reblooms. You get the fall foliage interest, and I think it's underused and not as well known of a tree, but it just keeps performing. You know, it's good for garden centers for sure. Easy to care for. Has that kind of really like shiny, shimmery look to it, and just a really, really cool, strong performing, good plant.
Flowers later than other spring blooming trees too, for the most part. So it's good to have in the garden center after your cherries and your crab apples.
And this is our last plant, everybody. So we can do some Q&A for those that have been nice enough to hang around for an extra 10 minutes here. But just to close it out, you know, thanks for being our one of our best. If you're on this call, you're one of our best customers. You engage with what we do, and thank you for being here. And you know, new plants, whatever stance you take on them, the best plant wins in our experience at Pride. So if you see something that's unique and different, don't write it off just because it's new. Give it a shot. And thanks for everything. Thanks for being here. You got any questions, Allison?
So yeah, we had one come in a little bit earlier from Scott, and he wanted to talk about how Pride looks at SKU reduction when it comes to similar varieties like Sonic Bloom wine versus wine and roses.
Yes, SKU reduction. That's like a dirty phrase thrown around here. No, I mean, we have to constantly be looking at that, Scott. You know, we're better at adding plants than we are at taking them away. I'll give you that. But you know, everyone has their own preferences, and we have a very diverse group of customers we sell to and geography we sell to. So we're not SKU reduction. I like to say okay, if a plant's not performing and a plant's not selling, let's get rid of it. But we're not going to get rid of plants just for the sake of we have too many plants in that genus. Catch my drift. We want to embrace the new. I think of like Spirea candy corn. That was a newly introduced plant in my career. And like Spirea, who cares, right? That plant didn't cannibalize any sales of like Magic Carpet or Little Princess or Gold Mount, and we're selling thousands of them. So that's an example of a new plant adding to the overall sales of a genus, in my opinion. So you got to embrace the new. There's gonna be some pain in it.
One question, I forgot to mention it earlier when you're going through it, the Juniperus aquavita. Do you have any experience with the apple cedar rust and how that handles that disease?
No, that would be something we'll have to get back to them on. We'll probably have to reach out to Spring Meadow on that. I know we just started those plants last year, so they're young here.
It's usually, I mean, I did check their site quick as the answers came in, and it didn't say anything about being disease resistant. So that kind of points me to that, you know, maybe it's kind of the same as other Juniperus virginianus. But we'll research it and get back to you.
Yeah.
And another question from Adriana. She says, what's the biggest size those junipers will be available in? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know, but I have a good educated guess. They're definitely not going to be bigger than a 3-gallon. So it's going to be like 2 and 3 gallon. And you know, if the plant gains popularity and we keep growing more in production, then you know, we'll look at a 5-gallon bigger option. But for right now, it's probably just 2s and 3s.
Question from Lorraine Bono. She says, any trick to getting the boomerang lilacs to really rebloom? She says, it's been my experience after the first bloom, they seem to just spurt flowers.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, so with dark purple compared to purple, a big improvement on reblooming. So that's one thing to know. But to promote reblooming, it would be you would want to I mean, they're supposed to kind of do this without this, Lorraine, but you would want to give them a little haircut, a little fertilizer. You're setting them up for success there.
And I've grown this in my yard as well, and giving it a little shear, you know, really kind of makes everything kind of rejuvenate and puts out a lot more flowers. So it's perfect.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions. These are all good, great questions.
Awesome. Well, guys, we hope to see you back. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them into the chat box. We'll keep going. We'll hopefully see you back next Thursday. We'll talk about perennials and roses with Chris and Stephanie. Give us some feedback. Do you like the new layout? Do you want to see something different? And then in 2 more weeks, we're going to be talking about fruit trees. We'll cover some new varieties, but we're just going to be talking about, you know, pollination, fruit trees, how, you know, all the different types, and kind of get you a basic knowledge base for your home orchard questions for your customers. So thank you so much for joining us, and everybody stay warm out there.
Thank you, everybody.